do some wrangling of some data. Wrangling means that you're getting your data set into a form that allows you to work with it and makes the variables into collects them and so forth. So it's kind of just a way to kind of not clean them, but kind of put them together in a usable form. I want to give you a little idea of RStudio. This is RStudio's console. This is the console. This actually runs our commands, and you'll see them right now. There's nothing in there. You're going to see here we have different menus. This is inside the server, and you've got different menus you can go into and work with different ideas. This is the environment. Right now it's empty, but we will put things in here and you'll see those show up. This pane down here, so there's different panes here. This pane down here has my files I'm going to work with. It also going to have some plots we might want to have. Packages, these are RStudio is an open source, so people have written packages to make things easier and make life a little bit easier on us. There's a help one. There's a viewer, the review materials. And I'm not actually sure what presentation does, but we're not worrying about that because we probably won't use it. So we're going to actually open up what we call an RMD file. So I've got this one here called Wrangling Data. It's known as an RMD file. When you notice it opened, it made a new pane up here of my files I'm working with. The console is now moved down. Here, this is known as the YAML. The YAML is for RStudio or R actually to know kind of what is the commands, what's happening, what's the name of the file. This is the title. Notice I can make this title anything I want as long as I keep it in quotes. My name, the author, I put my name in here. Again, you can put yours in here. Just make sure you keep it in quotes. The date, output. If I go to do something called knitting, it will output it to a Word document. One thing I'm going to note to you is that the RMD files, all of them have endwith.rmd. Don't put anything after this in the names of them. That will mess it up. This place here is known as an R chunk. You'll notice it's a little bit different color. It's a little grayish looking. It's known as an R chunk. This gives, this is where R actually is run. This is where we put in the commands we want to do. You'll see them run down here, but this is the one that will put them where we want. This is known as the setup one. This one will actually run whenever we run anything, but we're going to run it right now. The way you run it is there's a arrow here. So I'm going to run this little arrow, push this little arrow. It looks like nothing happened, but now if I look over here, first I notice down here, R ran a bunch of things down here. This library, Mosaic, that's one we use a lot. These are what turns on the packages. This library, NHANES, is the National Health and Nutrition Environmental Survey. This is a data set we're going to use. The library janitor will do some work for us also. And then here, I've named this survey. This little, looks like an arrow, is it assigning their command? It basically says everything after here will be assigned to survey. Read.csv will read in my data set, and here's the name of my data set. So when I ran it, I now notice I have it over here. If I click on this little blue arrow, it'll show me all the variables that are in here. I notice there's 45 observations and 11 variables. If I click on the name, it will open up the data set in my pane over here, so I can actually look at the data set. This is known as a tidy data set because every row is a unit of observation and every column is a variable. And you can see all the different variables here. You're going to notice that there are 45 observations. And if I go down, you'll see that there are 45 observations here. And there are 11 variables. You're going to notice that these names of these variables are really long. We don't really want that. So I'm going to do some cleaning up of it. You're also going to notice there's some dots in here, some periods in here in the names. We don't want those either. So I'm going to do some work to get this to figure out. The janitor will help us clean some of these names up. I'm also going to notice over here I have an outline. If I click on these outlines, it will go to the space. So if I click on Wrangling, it moves me down to the Wrangling data. So that's where we're going to start. First, I'm going to notice there's a command called head, and this head command is a useful command to kind of look at the data set without having to open it up. So if I click on this little arrow here again, it'll run this command. You're going to see tells me that there's 6 rows and 11 columns, but I know there's 45 rows. So it's just showing me the first 6 columns, 6 rows, sorry, 6 rows. This arrow here will allow me to look at the different um, names and columns I have, so I can move over to them. Again, it says I have 11 columns because I have 11 variables. I also notice that this is kind of hard to see, so sometimes it's a little bit easier to look at it a different way. So there's another command called glimpse. Glimpse again is on that survey data set. If I run that one, it again shows me this 45 rows, 11 columns, and it shows me the names of all the different variables. This is a CHR, that means it's a characters. This is also characters. You'll notice this one down here, it says int, that means it's an integer. This one here shows me that it's a number, a decimal number. So you can see that they're different, what the different variables are. You can also see that up here in the head command. So either one is fine. You can use either one that you want to do. Just gives you a basic structure of it. You can see some of the variable names here too. I notice there's these periods in here. Those periods are actually spaces, and I want to remove those spaces. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to what we call clean the names. And so again, I'm putting my survey. I'm using my survey data set. I want to clean the names of the survey. So this command of cleaning the names of survey will put it back into the survey data set. You can name it something new if you want, but I might as well just put it back where I have it. Again, if I run this, I now notice over here that my dots became underscores. So that made that a little bit easier to not have the decimal points in there or the periods in there. Now, I'd like to rename some of these because these are really long. I don't want to have to type all these in. They're very, very long. So I'm going to like to rename some of them. So renaming the variables or the column headings. I can do this again. I'm going to just put it back in where it is. So my survey is going to be now, everything is going to go into survey again. I'm going to rename survey. And instead of saying, what is your car or truck, I'm just going to call it car. And instead of calling it job, instead of calling, do you have a job? I'm just going to call it job. So I'm going to rename these. I'm going to click on these. Oh, I should mention, these pieces here just are comments after the hashtag. Anything after here is just a comment. So you can kind of see what these commands do. I'll run it. And you're going to now notice those really long ones just became car and job. Much easier to work with. I'd like to do that with all the rest of these, all the other 9. I already have this set up. Again, I'm going to take survey. I'm going to rename survey. I'm going to take all of these and rename them. And so I'm just going to run all these and it will rename all of these. Notice they're all now renamed. Notice ice cream, I can't put spaces in, so I did put an underscore. I also asked it to give me the variable names. Oh, because I have echo false, or I have include false. So we'll get rid of the include false. So it will show me the variable names. That's another way you can do it. Oh. If I do Control Enter, it will just run that last one. I can't rerun these because they've already been run. But this last one, variable names, just shows you the names of all the variables that are in here. Again, a nice command to use. I might want to recode some of the data values. If I look at my data set now, notice again now all my things are renamed. But I'm going to notice that some of these I have miles in here for numbers, and I want these to be just numbers. So I want to get rid of these units that are put in here and these words. So I'm going to actually do some recoding. I'm going to also notice that in major, some of the majors are spelled differently. And I can't see that really easy here, but if I run this command called tally, it will rerun these and it will show me. Oh, I put them down here because I have include false on all of these. I don't know why I did that. But now you can see that I've got some names that are the same, like accounting and accounting, because somebody capitalized it and somebody didn't. So again, I want to rename all these. I'm going to recode them. Again, I'm going to just put them back in my survey data set. There's no sense creating a new one. I'm going to mutate it, mutate changes columns or adds columns. I'm going to use my survey data set again. You have to tell it where the data is. And then I'm going to take my major, I'm going to recode it. Anything that was a question mark is going to be called unknown. Anything that was math, I'm going to make into smaller math and make it bigger math. Or smaller, bigger math, I'm going to make smaller math, and so forth. I'm going to make them all kind of the same, and I did this with all of the different pieces. So you would have to go through and find all these, but these are the commands you would use. I'll run this, and now it's rerun that. All right, so I've now gotten rid of all those. I'm gonna again do a recoding. I again don't really want this false in here, so I'm gonna get this out. So I'll run this, and now you can see I'm now looking at distance, and I see again I have some miles, and I don't want to have miles. I want to get rid of those words. So again, I'm going to do survey. I'm going to use the mutate. I'm going to use survey, and I'm going to recode all these. For distance, for the variable distance, I'm going to code it where distance 1.3 miles was one of the ones I saw on this list. And see, I see it right here. And I'm going to make that just 1.3. And I'm going to do that with all of these. This would take a lot of time to do this if you were going to go through a spreadsheet, whereas all I have to do is hit this button, and now they've all been changed. I also would like to make them numeric, because if I look at them, distance is still a character because we had words in there. And notice they're even in quotes, whereas the integers are numbers. I would like these to be numbers, so I'm going to, again, use survey. The arrow again says everything is assigned to survey. This is just a different way to write it. It's just a little bit easier way to write it. I then put survey. This is known as a piping tool. It just says and then. It really means and then. So I'm going to do survey. I'm going to use survey, and then I'm going to mutate it. Distance is going to be as numeric, and I'm going to call it distance. I'm using the distance formula, and I'm going to call it distance again. Not distance formula, sorry. Distance column. I'm going to run it, and notice my distance is now numeric, and these are all numbers instead of being in quotes. Mutate also adds columns, so I can add a column. So if I would like to take my timestamp, which is all these different characters, and I'd like to get it to where I pull things apart and I make it into just a column of numbers, I'm going to call it year. So again, I'm using survey. I'm going to assign it to using the survey data set. This is another piping. This is actually, this piping symbol is in one package, Margareta. This piping symbol is actually in base R now. So it didn't used to exist and now it does. So this is another piping symbol, a little bit easier to type. It's just the vertical line and the greater than symbol. I'm going to mutate. I'm going to create a variable called year. Notice there's no variable called year right now. I'm going to create one. I'm going to do it when the case when, and I'm going to do this command here that will take my 2023. It's going to look for the character of 2023 in the timestamp variable, and it's going to make it into just 2023. If there's anything left over, I'm going to call it 2024, true. If there's other variables, other date years in there, I would have to do that. So again, I'm going to run this. Now I look over here, I notice I now have a year column. I can also filter a data set. Filtering basically takes different rows. It picks the rows. Mutate changes columns. Filter changes rows or selects certain rows. So I'm going to now create basically a new data set. I'm going to take this big data set, and I just want to look at people that have a job. So I'm going to call it has job. So I'm now creating a new data set here called has job. Again, I'm going to assign it. That's that arrow symbol. That's the less than symbol and a dash. I'm going to filter. Filter is what creates new data sets. deals with columns. So filter deals with columns. I'm going to use a survey data set. Again, notice I'm creating a new data set. I'm looking for where job is equal. And the reason it's equal is because you can put different things. You could say not equal, greater than equal to, less than equal to. So we need both equal signs in here. And then I'm going to use the word yes. So I'm looking for wherever job says yes. Notice there's no's and yeses here. I'm going to run that. It looks like nothing happened, but over here I now have a new data set called has jobs. And here it only has 29 observations. So it took my 45 observations and just picked the ones that are just having jobs. If I open it, you're going to see jobs column now says yes. So this data set is basically the exact same data set, except it's only those that have jobs. And I can now work with that. And this is a little introduction to Wrangling. There's a lot more to it, but this is just a little introduction.